Good morning, everybody. I hope that you can all hear me. Thank you for that slightly few minutes delay. We were just making sure that everything was connected and live with you. I hope that you can all hear and you can all see me well. It's lovely to reconnect with you after what's been an incredibly short summer for us all. It's really nice that you're doing well, and I hope you have all had a little bit of a break at least. Today we're going to go through and we're going to discuss with you all the details about the reopening plan that's happening just in a few short weeks from now, and we want to make sure that you've got at least the high level information today. We'll then follow that up with lots more information, lots more videos, but this is the starting point for all of this information. It's lovely to see so many of you joining us. I can see hundreds already ticking that they like the first comment on the published comments. Let's get started today. We've got lots to discuss. This will be recorded, so anybody who isn't able to join us live can watch this later. Let's get started today. So as I said, we're going to discuss the reopening plans for August. That's going to be from the end of August when we start in the first week of term, as was published in our KHDA school calendar. That first week will be a small induction week, which we'll talk about a little bit further, but then we will also be going straight into the school year as quick as possible. I'm joined by my wonderful colleagues, as always, from the executive leadership team. Miss Jan, our Vice Principal, Mr. Ian, our Head of Secondary School, Mr. John, our Head of Primary School, and of course the lovely Miss Hannah, our Manager of School Operations. The executive leadership team have been working tirelessly this summer. If you feel that summer's been short, I can promise you we feel it even more. I think we've all managed about 2, maybe 3 days each. But we've been working tirelessly so that we can get the approval through from the KHDA and we can make sure that this plan is ready to welcome all of our lovely children back, which really we all cannot wait to do. So my team are all here with me and they'll be discussing at different points in this presentation, different areas. The main focus for today is to take questions. We want you to share those questions with us. We won't be publishing all of them live, as you can hopefully understand. We can't answer everything live as we're also presenting, but we will take moments where we can. But the idea is to gather questions from you so that we can then come back with a frequently asked questions video or some sort of fact sheet for you to help understand a few extra details you may wish to know. We are, though, going to be sharing the KHDA approved plan. That's the key for today. We need you to know clearly what has been approved by the KHDA, what will be part of your parent school contracts for your parents out there who are listening to us, and therefore what we must ensure we deliver for you when we reopen. We also want today to have a chance to get another survey from you. The last survey that we sent just before the summer holidays was the most answered survey that we've had, and it really did give us loads of information about what you would like to do in the new year, prior to the information given from the KHDA, the new regulations, and of course then our approved plan. But at least we had an idea from you so that we could use that in our plan. Now we know what the plan is, we want to survey you once more to find out what do you think about this. It's not that we can change elements of it, but at least we can listen to you and see what we can change and adapt as we go through the term. But the opening plan has been approved, and therefore what we tell you today is what is going to happen when we open. We'll then give you lots more follow-up videos and information through our website, through our YouTube, through our social media, and of course through D6. If you haven't got it already, you need D6, otherwise you're going to miss all this information. So we have lots of regulations that we've had to adhere to. There's 118 that have been given to us by the KHDA. We obviously have lots of other thoughts and considerations from different authorities as well, but the regulations for reopening are very black and white and very clear. There's 118 of them. If you want to take the time to read them, please feel free. We have digested them and thought about them and considered them and ensured that our plan meets these regulations. And part of those regulations are that we need to prepare everybody for what will be a different norm, a different opening. And we're going to ensure that we do that by, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that first induction week. We're going to make sure that we have everybody in just for a couple of hours during that first week so that we can really show them what it's going to look like, so that when we roll out in the second week of that term, everybody's going to know exactly what to expect, but we're going to do it in nice manageable chunks as we move through. So this next section is going to be delivered and discussed by my Vice Principal, Miss Jan, who you all know well, I'm sure. She's going to talk you through some of the details, and hopefully you're going to hear even more as we go through from the rest of my team. And I will speak to you and see you all a little bit later on after they've shared with you some of the details that we are doing to meet these new demands and regulations. Miss Jan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. A huge welcome to our parents and our students, and some of our teachers are also joining us, as well as they've now arrived safely back in Dubai. So if we could just have a look at the next slide, please, talking about those 118 regulations that Mr. Matthew was detailing. We have always been what's called a dynamic school. We've had to roll with many changes in the school. We had to very quickly adapt to full-time remote provision, but we have always been committed to reopening our school to have face-to-face lessons as soon as we possibly can. And as Matthew has said, we really miss our students. This school isn't a school without students in it, it's just a building. But we've worked over the summer, our support team, our manager of school operations, has really dedicated so much time to making sure that our school is going to be ready to welcome students back as soon as we possibly can. So we've had to look in those regulations at the health and safety precautions that we may need to make and any changes that we've had to have in our school. And that includes making sure that the school is sanitized and we have a cleaning schedule in place. Looking at the school in terms of what provision we can provide following the physical and social distancing regulations as well. We've had to look at how we can offer school transportation, and we'll give you a little bit more detail about that in our reopening plan, and you'll find out a little bit more about that as we move through this webinar. And also looking at how we can provide access to students safely, parents safely, having deliveries, etc., and which areas of the school should we allow people access to. Again, more details about that will follow. In terms of those physical distancing regulations, that has obviously affected the size of the teaching groups that we're able to have, the number of children in a class we can have at any one time. You may have already heard in the media that for our youngest students in foundation stage and for year one, the maximum number of students that we can have in the classroom at any one time is 10. But we've looked again at our classrooms, and we're very fortunate to have lovely, bright, large classrooms at Founders. So we can have in our year 2 and above about approximately 16 students and still have meeting those physical distancing regulations. We do have an amazing learning space for our year 13s. So we have looked at the facility up there, and we're lucky to be able to offer all of our year 13s the full-time provision should they wish to come into school. So following on from that, we did provide the KHDA with our plans, and those have, as you know, have now been approved, and that's what we've been waiting for before we actually were able to deliver this webinar and share our reopening plan with you. So we will be offering a blended approach to learning. That has been approved, a blended learning model. As it very clearly states on that slide there, that's a combination of digital delivery along with our on-campus instruction. That was always really what we were hoping for under these circumstances, because we will still have some vulnerable students who will not be able to come into school. And as you see there, those two options, there is still, and again in the press you will have been probably read, that parents who do not wish to send their children to school at this time can access remote learning full-time. So those are your two options, parents. You can take advantage of the in-school learning opportunities that we will be offering to your children, or your children can stay at home and access remote learning full-time. I'll now hand over to Miss Hannah, our Manager of School Operations, and she's going to go through in some detail what has happened in the school in regards to those regulations that we have had to put in place. Thank you very much. Miss Hannah, over to you.
Good morning, GFS. The majority of the information I will share in this section has come directly from the KHDA reopening protocol and the processes that GFS has put into place to follow and implement these. Please do read the KHDA readiness plan to get the full details. This will be available to you after this webinar. Interaction inside the school is not allowed. This means that we will not be able to allow parents inside the school without an appointment. If you do need to visit admissions or finance, you'll be able to email or book an appointment to do so. Only one member of the family should enter the external grounds of the school, and this is restricted to a maximum time limit of 10 minutes in the designated drop-off and pick-up areas, with no overcrowding. Keeping a 2-meter distance from others and wearing a mask must be maintained at all times. We have signage and floor markers to remind you of this. We have designated drop-off areas at the front and the rear of the school. Details of our procedures will be added to the newsletter and D6, so you know which gates and access to use before school starts. Students will enter the school through designated entrances, which will be fully equipped with thermal cameras and staff to help the movement and keep the social distancing. We have processes in place for suspected cases and positive cases. Details of these are in the full plan, and the clinic will be releasing videos to support this. As I hope you've seen in the national media, GFS has been highlighted as a centre of best practice for health and safety arrangements. We hope you enjoy seeing familiar places in the school that are being shown as a role model to all other schools in the UAE. If you haven't already, please check out our social media for the articles from Gulf News, Khaleej Times, and also Dubai Media. Sanitisation and deep cleaning of the school has been ongoing all summer and has pretty much been completed. We're just going over everything again. Resources and items that are more difficult to sanitise have been removed from use. Ongoing and going forward, daily disinfection and sterilisation programmes will be using Dubai municipality approved chemicals and along with fully trained staff. Common areas in the school and frequently used areas will be cleaned and disinfected every 30 minutes. Additional hand sanitizers are distributed across the school premises with a focus on areas of high use and frequent touch. All staff, visitors and students over the age of 6 are mandated to wear masks at all times within the school. Staff who are in direct contact with children, close contact with children, are encouraged to wear face shields to enable lip reading and facial expression. 2-meter distancing must be maintained in all common areas and 1.5 meters in classrooms, with all students facing in the same direction. Students will need to bring enough food and water to last them the day. Water dispensers are not allowed to be used, so it's really important that you pack 2 or more full bottles of water each day in your child's bag. Our school buses will run at a 50% capacity. All of our buses will have infrared thermometers, and the temperatures of the children will be taken before boarding and before disembarking into the school. It's really important that if you send your child on the bus, that you wait with them at the bus stop, because if the child's temperature is over 37.5, they will not be allowed to get onto the bus. So you must wait with your child before you put them on the bus. All bus riders, with the exception of children younger than 6 years old, will need to wear masks. FS and Year 1 students will not be permitted to use the bus as they will need assistance to board, wear their seatbelt and disembark. Social distancing restrictions do not permit GFS staff to assist closer than 1.5 metres from the child. Buses are cleaned and sanitised after every use by fully trained staff and in accordance with RTA guidelines for public transportation. Our prayer rooms are currently closed as these are carpeted and not easily sanitised after each use. And our AC and ventilation systems have been cleaned and undergo regular preventative maintenance. The flow of fresh air is closely monitored and maintained by our multi-skilled technician. GFS has and will be following the protocols set by KHDA, Dubai Health Authority and Dubai Municipality, along with any changes that may be issued. To enable us to keep our community safe and healthy as possible, it is important for us to take responsibility. By this, I mean we should become as self-reliant as possible. We encourage everyone to check their temperature every morning and only leave the house if it is below 37.5 and if you do not have any COVID symptoms. It's also advisable to carry personal supplies of masks, sanitizer, disinfectant wipes and water with you, so you always have your essentials with you wherever you go. Please practice these over the next few weeks with your family so your children get used to checking their health and packing everything they need for the day so it becomes part of their daily routine before school starts. I'll now hand over to John Stapley, Head of Primary.
You're muted.
My apologies, everybody. Slight technical issue there. I've muted myself. Do apologise for that. But good morning to you all, and thank you very much for joining us today. As directed by the KHDA, Miss Mary, yes, thank you. We can see that we've got groups of no more than 10 students per class within FS1, FS2 and Year 1. Now, this does mean that they will be on a 3-day cycle, so it'll be 1 day in school out of every 3. This also means that there will be longer days for the FS students, but with an option for earlier parental collection if preferred. This is also an opportunity for our FS students who are moving into Year 1 for the transition that normally takes place in term 3, but that obviously didn't happen this year. So we are aware that our new Year 1s in September may not be quite as prepared as they would normally be for Key Stage 1. So that extra time there. For Years 2 to 12, it will be a 50% in school on any day. So a student will be operating from Years 2 to 12 on an alternate day. I must point out as well, parents, that siblings from Years 2 to Year 12 will be timetabled on the same days as each other. Okay. Thank you. I will now pass on to Mr. Ian, who will give us more details for Year 13.
Good morning, parents and students. It's so wonderful to be here with you today and want to re-emphasise the message that I hope you've had a wonderful and safe and healthy summer holiday. I want to talk briefly a little bit about Year 13 and how that will look for our students that are entering their final year of school and the final year of A-levels. So for Year 13, all students will be permitted to attend school full-time, and they will access all lessons through their own devices with face-to-face support. It is incredibly important for our Year 13 students to make sure that they bring in their devices every single day to school and are fully prepared with them charged and ready to learn. I want to emphasise, as the head of secondary, it's also important for parents and students to know that we will cover all related curriculum material relevant to the A-level specifications across all examination boards next year. And students will be accessing all of their learning in the sixth form study area, which is located on the 3rd floor of GEMS Founders School. Therefore, students upstairs on the 3rd floor will access multiple lessons in the same room with face-to-face support. Next slide, please, Mary. I want to emphasize that this slide applies to all students across our school, and we will go through each bullet point piece by piece, and further details will be shared within the relevant documentation that is going to be shared following this webinar. Very important to understand that health and safety is our #1 priority, and therefore students will remain in one classroom, corridor, or learning space or area throughout the day when they arrive at school. There will be minimal movement around the school during the school day. This will only apply as students enter at the start of the day and leave at the end of the day, which will be incredibly well supervised by our colleagues and our staff. Very important to understand, students will follow the full timetable in real time. We discussed and debated this at length, and we feel that the curriculum content coverage is absolutely essential across all subject areas at GFS. So they will be following a full timetable in real time. Specialist teachers will be moving around the school. Just go back one slide. Will move around the school to deliver the lessons to all students. This will obviously have an impact on certain subjects such as PE. So it's important to understand that there will be no practical PE lessons across the school. As a PE specialist, I know and understand how much students love and enjoy physical movement on a day-to-day basis. I want to emphasize and thank all of the great work the physical education department did during term 3 to develop asynchronous provision, and that will still be available and will be developed for students to access from home after school, following the regulations and guidelines set out by the relevant bodies. So please encourage your children to engage in physical activity from home in a safe manner, and the content we will provide for you. Students across the school may need to access some live teaching through their devices online, which has been mentioned before. This will be specifically relevant to our specialist teaching and also students in years 10 to 12. Again, more information will be shared as to how this will look in practice across the relevant subjects by our heads of department and heads of key stage. And finally, when devices are brought to school, which will be every day, please make sure that they're fully charged so that students are ready to learn. I can't emphasize enough the hashtag at the bottom. We are all responsible. That includes students, parents, and of course, everybody that works at GFS. I'll now hand back to Mr. John Stapley.
Thank you, Mr. Ian. Okay, so regarding our on-campus learning as we go. So I'm referring here to the whole school. I know I'm the head of primary, but I'm referring now to FS1 all the way through to year 13. And we will be offering a synchronous delivery model at GFS from September. Over the summer period, we've invested heavily in our school's IT equipment, and we've installed webcams into all of our classrooms. And now our teachers are back in school. This is something that we will be able to offer. Our teachers will also have access to Bluetooth headphones, which will also help the delivery. So how will it go? Students at home will be able to join the live lesson inputs that are taking place here in school. And after a certain amount of time, when appropriate, they will then be directed to turn off the camera, and they will be directed to the additional resources needed for the lesson on Teams and Seesaw. Students will also have their books at home. The books will be sent home from school and will not to be returned to school. So they will be kept at home for students to be working with them. The webcams will be off throughout this kind of work period, and then the webcams will be turned back on before the end of the lesson for that end of lesson recap, any kind of key questions as we go. We are well aware of the wellbeing issues surrounding students facing screens all day long, and this is something we definitely do not want to happen. Students who are coming into school will need to bring the minimum of equipment with them, and it's worth bearing in mind that anything they do bring into school will need to be sanitised. Just moving back as well. The resources will be available, yes, through MS Teams and Seesaw as before. And I'd just like to highlight the next point, which is regular updates on children's progress. Now, this is something that we are well aware of, and something that we're well aware of, we want to improve our delivery of. So we're very much a focus for us moving through the new term. Regarding induction week, regarding the specifics according to your child's year groups, information is going to be sent out by our key stage leaders closer to the term start. More information will then come from year heads as well as class teachers, and class teachers will also be scheduling short individual welcome web chats with all our parents throughout the first week. Thank you, and I'll pass back now to Mr. Matthew.
Hello, thank you, colleagues. I hope that everybody's been able to hear all of the detail that's been shared. And while they've been talking away to you, I've been busily trying to answer everybody's comments and questions that have been coming in. We've now got well over 100, and I've been detailing all answers to everybody that I can. If colleagues can continue doing that for me while I'm talking, that would be really helpful. We do want to provide answers as much as we can to those who've joined us live. We really appreciate you taking this time out for us today. I wanted to focus in on this. There's been a few of the comments and the questions that I've responded to about the remote learning evaluation that happened last term. And term 3, we obviously all went into 100% remote learning. And the challenge of that was immense for you, for your children, and of course for us as a school. It wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. And I know I've shared with school leaders, it was probably the most challenging school term that any of us have ever had. One of the things that then was added to that challenge was that the DSIB decided that they wanted to evaluate the remote learning, something that we respect and understand, but of course it was an additional challenge because we wanted to ensure, as always at GFS, that we represent and do our very best. We're sharing with you here the actual details of the remote learning evaluation from the DSIB and the KHDA. As you can see, all those lovely green boxes means that 10 out of the 13 areas we were fully developed, the highest possible grade that you can attain during this remote learning evaluation. There were 3 areas there that they said we were partially developed, though that's in the middle of the range of grades. So there were 3 main grades, and we got 10 in the top and 3 in the middle, and none, as you can see, in the area of not being developed at all. So we were very proud, and really should be proud, and all of our team and any of my team listening right now should be incredibly proud of what we achieved during that time. Parents, we know that you took on your burden as well. You supported us with this, and I want you to be proud of the achievement of GEMS Founders School, because as you will see in the next part of this slide, in the little table, what this outcome meant for our school, if you take all the schools across Dubai and you look at all of the remote learning evaluations conducted by the DSIB, you can see in that table that we're in the good range because that's our DSIB outcome as a normal school inspection that we achieved this year and the year before. And you can see that that makes us in the green box as part of the developed. For really simple terms, that means that our school was placed in the same area, the same judgment as all of the very good and outstanding schools here in Dubai. So the provision that our staff and our team gave you, the work that you as parents did, the work that of course our wonderful children did, all of that meant that we are grouped together with the highest possible rating with the very good and outstanding schools. This is something to be proud of and to celebrate, and we really should, because it's important for us to recognise and understand what we achieved. Now, I'm sharing this with you because I also want to just reference what colleagues have just talked about there in our remote learning. It's going to be an even more enhanced version. Mr. John has talked to you about the investment that we've made over the summer. We've installed over 140 webcams in our classrooms so that we can do some more live video learning. We've also invested in Bluetooth microphones for every single member of the teaching staff so that they can coordinate and talk live to children at home while they're also in the classroom teaching children live in the classroom. This is going to be no mean feat and no easy thing to do, but we've certainly invested over the summer to make sure that even though we got the best grade, even though we got the highest rating you could get, we want to be even better this term. So we've invested in that to make sure we have. So I just wanted to take a moment to pause on this and share this with you and be proud of it, all of us, because we all got through this. We're all responsible and we were all in it together. And moving forward to just some more logistics and some basics that I've seen a few comments coming up about the school timing and the school day. Really important things and basics that we need to share with you today. What we've done is made sure that we've got a really large window to be able to register and bring children in. The gates and the doors to the school will open. As we've already had colleagues share with you, that means that FS to Year 2 will be coming into the front of the building using the front car park, and then the back rear car park will be all other year groups. Not different to what we normally do, but just re-emphasising that. What we've done is given a 45-minute window though for that registration process to happen. We of course want people here for the national anthem and to celebrate that and to be here together as that is played through the school. But 7:45 is when truly registration closes. This is to help us get the volume of children through. But I want to remind everybody that this will be at 50% maximum volume of our normal school day. So a few of the comments about traffic or concerns on buses, don't worry, it's actually going to be a little bit easier than it is normally. And then in the school day, we end at 2:20. Now you can see a big red point there, and this is because what we've done is extend the school day for foundation stage students as well. So all of our FS1 and 2 students can stay until the very end of the day at 2:20. So we'll have one start time and one end time for the school. This is to respect the health and safety measures. This is to ensure children are safe, but it's also so that we can deliver to those FS children that choose to stay. We can actually deliver 45% of the curriculum in school time. So it's nearly 50, not quite there, but nearly. So 45% of the curriculum time for FS will be delivered in school because of this extended 2 hours per day for the days that they are with us. Okay, the school timing days are really important. We'll share more during our induction presentations with key stage leaders and heads of department, but I hope that that's answered a few of the questions that have been popping up. Really simple stuff. Make sure you just have this in your mind. Come early, drop your kids off, leave them safe with us, and then we'll look after them until the end of the day. And now I will like to hand back over to Miss Jan, who is one of our wellbeing champions in the school. And as you saw, although that said partially developed, we were actually really complimented on our provision, but Miss Jan and her team want to make it even better. So I'll hand over to Miss Jan, who will now focus in on really the most important part of this year, wellbeing.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Mr. Matthew. Yeah, big sign there with wellbeing being held up. We always have cherished and promoted wellbeing at our school. If you are a parent of a child who's been with us for some time, you will know that wellbeing has always been a priority at Founders. I would have to say though, at the moment, our main priority is health and safety, and that's why we've really tried to discuss that with you. And a lot of the questions that are coming in the chat are all going to be answered once we can share with you the full reopening plan. Lots and lots of answers to those questions will be there. We did share a survey at the end of last term, and we did have over 2,000 responses to that. Also, GEMS had their own survey that many of you may have responded to, and we understand that wellbeing is a high concern of parents, students and teachers as well. So we do want to focus a lot on wellbeing. So what are we going to do to try to mitigate any of the negative impact of this once we do reopen? Thank you, Miss Mary, with the slide. Okay, as I've said, we understand the importance of both physical and mental well-being. So the health and safety is going to look after the physical well-being, and there's lots and lots of details that you will be getting soon. But these are some of the things that you could do and help us with in our school to make sure that your children are safe and well. Please do take your child's temperature every morning before they leave home, before they leave to come to school. Please do not send them if they are unwell at all. If they do have a temperature over 37.5 degrees Celsius, please do keep them at home. We had a question in the chat a little while ago about children and could they buy water in school. We're not going to be able to have an over-the-counter purchasing provision in school. You must please make sure that your children bring water in their own water bottles with their name on it, please. We don't want children getting mixed up or using each other's water bottles, obviously. So well named, probably 2 or 3 bottles that you'll need to bring to school, because we can't, the water coolers as well are not going to be available. We also recommend that your child brings their own packed lunch with them. It's a nice idea to get them to help you to pack it, make it part of the routine when they are coming to school. Lots of healthy snacks as well. We're going to make sure that during the day, rather than having one longer break, we will still have breaks for children to be able to eat their lunch. But during the day, we're going to have lots of small little breaks to give the children a little bit of a break from listening. Maybe they can, as we say, even social distancing, still interact with their classmates. So lots of little healthy snacks in their lunch boxes so that they can keep up their energy all the time. As Ms. Hannah has said, face masks are compulsory for all staff in school and for students over the age of 6. One of the questions that came in a little while ago that I've answered is we will have children in one class, some who are 5 and some who are 6. The regulation very clear: if they are over 6, they must wear a mask. What we are trying to do is to say that very few children who are under 6 years of age in year 2. So if you've got a child who is one of our youngest in year 2, we would like you to try to get them to wear a mask. So year 2 and above, you know, everyone's in a mask, but there will be classes where some children do wear masks and some don't. But please do ensure that your child understands how to wear and store their masks and when it's appropriate to change them. We're going to give you a few more details and recommendations about how to store the masks in school, when the children should change them, and how to dispose of them safely as well. If I could have the next slide, please, Ms. Mary. So as Mr. Ian has said, while there are no practical PE lessons in school, we will try to get children to have as much fresh air as possible. Obviously, weather permitting, it's very hot during these times, so it's not going to be very comfortable to go outside. So we don't want to make the children feel uncomfortable at all. But if we can have short periods of walking outside just to give the children a bit of exercise and stretch their bodies, that would be important to us as well. We've really thought hard about this, and as Mr. Matthews said, the senior leadership have been working throughout the summer. We haven't really had a break. One of the things that we've decided, because of the restrictions of wearing a face mask, children and teachers, you'll be pleased to hear this, do not have to wear their neckties while they're wearing a mask in school. So just a little bit of thought that we put into trying to make sure everybody is comfortable around the school. And again, as Mr. Matthews said, we were complimented by the inspectors who came to do our remote learning evaluation on the processes and the systems that we have in place around wellbeing. But clearly the response that we got from our parents and maybe some of our students as well, that they didn't feel that necessary. And we've dug really deeply into the answers to our last survey. And we feel that the main reason for that was the amount of screen time that parents and students felt that they were being exposed to. So we've really thought long and hard about this, and when we have issued the textbooks and workbooks to your children, we'll be asking them to take them home. And Mr. John may be able to give us a bit more information about the setup for the lessons. We've got those webcams in place, so the teacher will include all of the children in school and at home at the beginning of those lessons, but then they'll be encouraged to move away from that screen and look at those textbooks, use the textbooks and their workbooks. And obviously it isn't appropriate for them to be in school to be marked and shared either, because obviously there could be a possibility of cross-contamination. So that's another reason why we're asking the textbooks and exercise books to go home. The online provision that we do have and will have, though, will create opportunities, and we shouldn't really forget all of the positive things that have come out of the use of technology over the past term. We will have opportunities for small group interaction through our online portal with our teacher supervision. So we'll be checking in regularly on the children who are have decided, or parents have decided, that they're going to be accessing just remote learning. We're going to make sure that small social interactive groups are there just to check on children's well-being and socialise with them as well. As always, we will have access, and anyone at school will have access to our school counsellors. I am the designated safeguarding lead in school, but I have a team that support me in that role. Teachers will be monitoring children's well-being and informing me and my team if they have any concerns at all about student well-being. And as always, we have that zero tolerance around bullying, either in school or online, where teachers have seen inappropriate comments in chat, etc., or we've been made aware that there are private chats that are happening unsupervised. We've closed those down very quickly. There are consequences of that, and any negative behaviour either in school or online will not be tolerated at all. So the other thing that you will be made aware of, and we will highlight to you, is that there is a revised parent-school contract, and there is an additional addendum on that parent-school contract that will reflect this blended learning approach that we have, including all of those KHDA directives. Please do make sure that when you are signing this year's parent-school contract, you go through that very, very carefully. Make sure you understand it before you sign it. This is a legal document, and there are some very important details related to the blended learning and your commitments and the school's commitment to making sure that we are providing the best possible service that we can to ensure both education and well-being and health and safety are there for you. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll go back. I think it's now back to Mr. Matthew, I believe.
Thank you, Ms. Jan. I hope that the time that we dedicated to that has given you all a real emphasis of the importance that we placed on well-being, and a real emphasis on how much time and energy, even at the level of detail that we've tried to consider to be able to support children and staff and parents' well-being. We do understand that this is probably the thing been affected the most out of all of this. We've talked about the economical situation, we've talked about the new norms, all of these things are constantly out in the media, but actually our physical and mental well-being are the things that I believe and that we believe as a team are going to become more and more essential as we continue to work in this new norm, for as long as we need to work in this new norm. Everything we've presented to you is for term 1. So all of the approved plans have been for term 1. Anything else after the winter break, we're not discussing at this stage, because we obviously need to react and be agile to what's going on in the situations around us. This is for the full term 1 until the winter break. We've been answering frenetically questions, and lots of my colleagues have gone in. There's still a few more that we will try and go and do personal answers for as much as we can. We've answered many of them though, if you've been listening. So if your question's unanswered, it's probably because we've already answered it as we were talking, and we then have got to your question after that time. We've published a few that we've just answered as well to share with you. There have been a couple of people who've had technical issues from their side, so the audio or the slide presentation or anything like that. We will and have recorded this. We will upload this. We will share the slides with you. We will share the full reopening plan. So all of this is coming out at the end of today, early tomorrow, depending on when we can get it all uploaded on our website and YouTube page. So you'll have everything available recorded. And again, as I said at the start, D6. So please, we'll send it out through D6. You will not be receiving an email about this. You'll see it on D6. You'll be able to get everything that you need. Please follow the QR code that's coming up to the survey. That will also be available in other ways through D6, but we really, really want your response to our questionnaire. We want to know what your thoughts are now, what questions you have now, what option you think is available to you. One of the big things that we've had, and I'm just going to take this question before we end, has been about if we opt for this option, let's say option 2, but then we see that the situation's more stable and that we then feel confident about coming back, are we able to do so? There are lots of discussions happening with the authorities at the moment about how we can be agile enough to be able to maneuver through that situation of a child not coming in on a Tuesday, but then wanting to be back in that class on the Wednesday. Let me give you a really clear answer to start with. Your child's school place in their class is their place in their class. It is not being given to somebody else because you've opted for online learning, okay? That's not how things are done, and that's not how we do it. What will happen is you will have your school place. That place will be able to access through the timetable that you are given, either in school or remotely, or you may opt for the 100% remote learning. And then after a few weeks, contact us and say, I'd like to get back to the 50% timetable of my year 4 child, for example. That's going to be absolutely fine. That place is not going to be given to anybody else. It is your child's place. So hopefully that's answered at least 100 of the questions that we had out of the 350 that we've seen so far from people watching and listening live today. It's really important. It's your place. It's not going anywhere. But if you opt for that remote learning option, please just then give us some notice, talk to us if you then want to come back into the school, because the reality is we will need to induct you and your child into the in-school provision that we will be having. So it's just knowing so that you don't come in and then aren't able to follow all the rules and regulations that we have in place. We've shared with you today the high level detail. We've shared the questionnaire, hopefully that you'll get the chance to answer. You've got loads more documentation coming your way. Can I please just ask you one last thing before I say goodbye? Miss Jan focused on well-being. A lot of the questions that have come in have been answered, are being answered, and actually probably were just answered before you posted your question. So could I please ask everybody listening to pass this on to the rest of our community? Before you hit that button on your email, you pick up your phone and ask a question, please watch the video again, read the documentation that we're sending to you, have a look through the summaries, do everything that you can at all to answer your own questions, and then please come to us, because what we're trying to do is provide you with everything possible so that you can answer those questions. After you've done your bit, because the hashtag we are all responsible, you can then, and are more than welcome to come and ask us, and we'll do our best to answer it. But what would be a waste of all of our times is if we answer the same question 100 times when actually it's available really easily and really readily to our community. So please, can I ask you to think about our well-being and our inboxes and our phone lines, and just try the best you can to answer the questions with what we're providing. And if you really can't, then of course reach out, we're here for you, and we will do our best to answer them. So I'll leave you with that. We are all responsible. We cannot wait to have children's voices back in this school and welcome them back in. I hope we've answered everything we can for you today. I'd like to thank my team. I'd like to thank every single person who's come on live to join us today. Otherwise, share the video recording with everybody else. And please make sure that you keep listening and keep looking out on D6 for the information that we will provide you. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and see you all in a very short time. Thank you very much, everybody.